The Polyglot Gathering is organized by Education at Internet.
Okay, hello everybody. It's time to start. So right now we have a talk made by Joshua Balata, The Letters of India. After the talk, there will always be questions, so please ask them by Slido. You have to enter the code PG2025, and let's start.
Do I have to switch it to the phone? Okay, thanks. Good morning, everybody. This is the first day. How are you guys feeling? Good energy, not so good energy? Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Do you guys know about Indian languages? By a show of hands? Yeah. Can you name a couple that you know? Hindi, Telugu, Tamil, Gujarati, Malayalam, Hindi, yeah. Bengali? Kannada, thank you. That's where I'm from. So you guys know there are a bunch of Indian languages. So when it comes to the scripts of India, the letters of India, there are a bunch of letters too. But coming from a European or Western world point of view, we see Latin letters everywhere. Some exceptions, of course, there's Greek letters, but mostly there's Latin letters. So whether it's Spanish or Italian or French or English, the letters keep showing up over and over again. And I wanted to talk about this and how diverse it is from an Indian perspective, and that's going to be the objective of my talk. There is a little bit of pluralism that I'll talk about. This is philosophical, and it's not my area. I studied science, and I work in data. So philosophy is not my area. But I've read about this, and I've consumed a lot of philosophy podcasts. So I'll share my point of view. I don't think this is a scholarly philosophy point of view, but it's like a personal point of view. So I'll share that philosophy thing in this talk too. So we're going to play a game, and I'm going to need you to use the QR code for this game, all right? Towards the end of the talk, I'll give you guys a little gift, but to get that gift, you need to win. And in order to win, you need to play the game, all right? So the question is, how many scripts are in the Indian currency note? That's what the currency note looks like. And the part that's blocked out, the yellow side, that's where it says 10 rupees in X languages, in X different scripts. The question is, how many are there? Scripts, yeah. Writing systems, yeah. So for instance, Marathi and Hindi is shared with Devanagari. Yeah. So then that would count as one. So how many are there? You can put it on the thing, and I think this QR code will stay throughout the talk. So if you want to change your mind, go ahead and change it. And towards the end of the talk, I'll remove that yellow block and share with you guys how many are there. So for those of you guys who's called out these names, I'm sure you know that there's a little bit of difference between North Indian and South Indian languages. And if you don't, that's okay. We'll have a look at the difference during this talk. So there are two families. There's the North Indian family and the South Indian family. And while doing the research for this talk and the previous talk I'd given about Indian languages, I realized that the writing systems for both families was the same ancestor. And that's humbling because they have evolved in such different ways. If you look at the North Indian languages, they have these horizontal lines that demarcate that it's one full word. There are some exceptions, of course. And then, of course, there's Urdu on the far right, which just uses the Arabic script. It sounds like Hindi, but it uses the Arabic script. But the ones that were born and evolved in India, they have that line situation going. You can see that over there, yeah? And the Southern Indian families, you see they are far more round. And there is, in fact, an Indian sweet dish called jalebi. I don't know if you guys have heard of this. It's probably of Arabic origin, but we love it in India. And North Indians say that South Indian scripts are all just jalebis because that's what they look like. They're all just round. And in fact, I wanted to take some time to not only share with you guys the difference in the script, but also a little bit in the sound. Now, I'm not a linguist, but I speak a bunch of Indian languages. And North Indians, I speak some Hindi too. When I hang out with my North Indian friends, they say that South Indian, if any of you know any North Indian languages, I'm sure you'll relate with this joke. They'll say that South Indians all sound like ondu, pondu, kondu, kondu. Because that's what it sounds like. And I did some research. I tried to find out why do they sound so similar in the South. And the North is very consonanty. You can see peaks and stuff. There are not as many vowels. I was wondering why this is. They are far more aspirated as well. They use the H version. So there's k and k, there's ch and ch. They would use the aspirated one in the north and not in the south. I'm like, why is this? And it's quite systematic. Apart from foreign languages that we speak, it's quite systematic. And there's some speculation that this is because of the climate. But this is, yeah, I don't know much about this, but I can share with you what I found online. In North India, it's a little more dry, and they use more consonants, like in Russian and Arabic. In South India, it's more temperate and very humid, and they use a lot of vowels. And we'll talk about the vowels in the Tamil and Kannada language during this talk. So if you're paying attention for that challenge, so far the language count is 8. So because we have 8 different writing scripts over here. So it's definitely above 8, all right? So having a look at the South Indian language families. One second, where can I see the time? Oh, perfect, thanks. So talking about the South Indian language family, I was raised in South India, and we are very proud of our languages in South India, if you didn't already know. And how proud we are of that, it goes back to our literature and how old these languages are. North Indian languages are not that old, and I'd like to shed some light on that. There is definitely some similarity between South Indian languages. So these are the 4 languages I want to share this word milk. Between Kannada, Telugu, Malayalam, and Tamil. And these languages are spoken in those 4 states, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu. These are the 4 primary languages in these states. And this is the word milk in all of those languages. Do you notice that? Yeah. You'll notice that there's this curved thing over here. It makes a R sound, and it says it phonetically here. And you also have that curved thing over here. So between Telugu and Kannada, there's that similarity. So I can read Kannada. I was born and raised in Karnataka. And I can read this language well. This is like my most comfortable Indian language. So the humor works the best for me. I love their music. I love their movies because I was raised in Karnataka. So when I look at Telugu, I can't read all of it, but look at Lu. It's exactly the same. You know, that makes a Lu sound, and Kannada and Telugu, it's exactly the same. And I'm very ashamed to admit that I'm Tamil, in fact. My dad is Tamil. At home, we speak the Tamil language. But I can't read this because I was not raised in this part of India. That's in Southeast India. And yeah, I've been there once or twice for a holiday to visit that side of the family, but I can't read this. And so Malayalam, it doesn't even look similar to this. And that's, yeah, I have no idea. But if you look at the sound, that's halu, palu, pal, and pal. There is some similarity in the nouns because there has been some sharing between these 4 lands, but these languages are really old. I just picked 4 North Indian languages at random. In fact, Urdu, there's a lot of debate whether it should be considered Indian or not. It was born in India, but it has a lot of Persian, Arabic influence. So yeah, plenty of schools of thoughts who don't want to include this language, but I love this language, so I just put that in and it's my talk. So this word is food. In Hindi, we say khana, and I can read this language because I learned Hindi. And in Urdu, it's also khana. If any of you guys can read Arabic, you'll notice that the ka, alif, noon, and alif are all from Arabic. But we have a new compound word. I was talking to you guys about aspirated consonants in the beginning of my talk. In the Urdu language, they took all of these Arabic consonants and they made an aspirated version. So this is the Nastaliq script. And if you look at the Nask, the one that we used, it's a little more artistic. You'll notice that these words are even more smushed together. The K and the Do Chashmi Hai, they are even more smushed together and they become a new consonant because we use it so often. So very similar in pronunciation, khana and khana. But notice every other language which doesn't have a foreign script like Urdu, there's this line situation going on. So there's Bojana and Khadya. I don't speak these languages, Punjabi and Bengali, so I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. But when I look at a North Indian script, I notice that there are these lines. And I've been asking myself, why is that? Why do they all have systematically these lines? And in the South, they are so jalebi-like. So when I was taking the flight to come over here, I noticed that it said welcome in a bunch of European languages. And I was like, yeah, that would have been nice. If I could make a slide with just all of the Indian scripts, that would have been nice, but it was a little too late. But it's interesting to see that a lot of these languages, like I said earlier, use the Latin script. So although I don't speak Spanish, I can attempt to read it. Probably I'm mispronouncing it, but I can attempt to read it, and it reduces the barrier to entry. So when I was learning French, I didn't have to learn the alphabet at all. It's because it's just like English. I had to learn, of course, the accents and some pronunciation specificities that French has and English doesn't, but I didn't struggle with the reading. But me, I've been 32 years old now. I've been speaking Tamil for 30 years at least, and I can't read it because there's this high barrier to entry. And I tried to learn it, but it's so different from Hindi. And we'll do a little bit of comparison between Hindi and Tamil in a second. This is the low barrier to entry thing I was talking about in how similar it could be. Of course, just because I speak French, I don't understand Italian movies, but there is this similarity thing going on that India does not benefit from. So it's almost like we are celebrating this diversity. They're celebrating the fact that it's completely different, and they're not seeking to standardize or homogenize this. They are very happy to keep it distinct and apart. So if we went back in time, so I did a little bit of research on this. There are these 4 ancient urban civilizations, and the Indus Valley civilization is one of them. This Indus Valley civilization is in current-day Pakistan, Afghanistan, and India, this area. And there are about 100 sites where they excavated public baths and stuff. This is ancient stuff. And unfortunately, we don't know what it says. We haven't yet deciphered it. We've not had our own Indian Rosetta Stone to decipher it, and we don't even know how old it is. So this age thing is also speculative. Some people say it's 100 BC, some people say it's 4000 BC. We don't know how old it is. So there's this whole thing going on. In fact, there's this website. I don't think this will help you, but on the iPhone, if you took a picture of that and you tapped it, it'll take you to the website. It's the Indian Education Ministry of Education website, where they're talking about Indian languages, the organization of Indian languages, and the writing systems. So a lot of this information I got from there, and at times they are very honest that they just don't know about many of these sources. So if we went back in time, there is a lot of history where these scripts come from, and this is what the ancient Brahmi script looks like. This thing, I think we are fairly sure that it's 250 BCE, and it looks like this. And this is in the Indus Valley area. And what is humbling for me is, this thing is called the Brahmi script. What is humbling for me is all of these language scripts that we've been looking at, the one with the lines and the jalebi ones from the south, it's believed that all of them are descendant from the ancient Brahmi script. So there are like 4 or 5 families that they diverged into. And there are these neat tables that show how they diverged from the ancient Brahmi to our modern day scripts. So that's mind-boggling because they look so different today, but they have a common ancestor. Another old one from the state of Bihar. This is from 3rd century BCE. And this one is from Karnataka. So although it's a little later, 745, it makes me happy because that's my land. So here you'll see that there's this, it's organized by language over here. And the aspirated ones that I was talking about is the second line. So there's K and K, G and G. And there's a different letter in Hindi, Kannada as well. But in Kannada, we don't use this guy as much. The aspirated guy, we don't use him as much, like I was saying earlier in the south. But in the north, I still get, these are the things that I still get wrong in Hindi. I learned this as an adult when I was studying engineering. I would hang out with the North Indians to learn Hindi. So the 2 mistakes I make in Hindi is, one is the aspirated sounds, this one. I use the wrong one, the aspirated for the non-aspirated and vice versa, and the gender thing. So all nouns have gender in Hindi, and I always use not always, but often use the wrong gender, just like I do sometimes in French. So here, all the letters are visible over here between these scripts. So if you're still guessing on the Slido, this should help, but that's not the answer, I made sure. But you'll notice it's so neatly organized now when you see how different they are. There is one exception in Odia, this language over here, and I don't know this language, but I did some research about it, and I'd like to talk to you about this language. It's also an ancient language. And you'll see how different these scripts are with these lines up top and these curves down bottom. So this is from a passage from the Bible, and I use this approach to learn how to read and write Urdu because it's phonetically the same, but you can have it in Devanagari and in Urdu, and that helps you to learn a new language. But here it's an example of John chapter 1 between Hindi and Tamil. I just pulled this out so that you can see how different the same passage would look like between these two languages. So there's this theory that the reason why there are so many curves down south is because in the south part of India, they used palm tree leaves to write on, and they used these metal tools to write with their hands. And it was easier to, with your wrist, to make the gesture of some curves. And that's why it evolved to have these curves in the south part of India, although the parent was Brahmi. In the north part, however, there's this, Himalayan birch bark. I looked that up as well. And this thing, if you try to make those curvy things with it, it would tear. And so they went along the grain, which allowed them to make those horizontal lines. And they ended up with this. And that's like a theory of why they look so different in the north and in the south part of India. So there's another thing about the schwa deletion. For those of you guys who are linguists, this should already give you the context of what I'm going to say. So this is a character from the epic Mahabharata, Arjun. So for someone from North India, they would say Arjun, like it says over here in Hindi. They would say Arjun, and that's that. In South India, however, we would go Arjuna. This is Kannada, that's my language. And this is Tamil. I can't read this one, but I pulled it out of Google Translate. But even in Tamil, we would say Arjuna. And there's a little in the end, because as I mentioned before, in South India, we have more vowels. So even in the end, there's this extra that the Hindi guys don't have, yeah? And what's beautiful, I noticed, is the language Urdu, it adjusts for both. So it's not a script from India, it's a script from the Arabian area. So this reads Arjun, literally Arjun, there's no U here, but that's understood. But there's this little letter called Hamza, for those of you who speak Arabic, this little letter over here that you don't use as much in the Arabic language, but you do in Indian languages, because Urdu is also a very popular language down south. In Karnataka, there was this Badami Sultanate, and Urdu was a language used over there. So this script had to also serve the South Indian language, which did not have the schwa deletion. Yeah. So this thing is called mamla or masla. This is masla. There's a little in the end, just like we have in Kannada and in Tamil. I learned that this pie-looking letter makes a sound in Tamil. That's pretty much all I know about Tamil script. So this is the and this thing over here, this curve over here, makes the sound, and we have that in Urdu. However, in our own Hindi, which was born in our land, we don't have it because they do not need it. So when it comes to the age of these languages, there was, in 2004, a study done by the Ministry of Culture, where they wanted to find out how old are these languages, these Indian languages. And they had two criteria. One, they should be like 1,500, 2,000 years old, and they should have some literary tradition, which is original and not borrowed during that time frame. And how many languages do you think would have qualified? We counted like 8 languages so far, right, together? So how many languages, Indian languages, do you think would qualify for this age? Certainly not Urdu. Sorry? No, no, it's a real positive number. 24? No, a little less than that. It's less than 10. Any idea? 5? 8? Yeah, sorry? Sanskrit is definitely one of them. You can even make guesses. Yeah, Sanskrit is one of them. Yeah? Tamil and Telugu, not bad at all. So there's 3, yeah? Yeah, Sanskrit is the first one. Sanskrit, Tamil, Telugu. So at least 3. Okay, Bengali. Nepali? Bali. Pali, right? This is not spoken in India anymore. It's an ancient one. So no, we're not counting that one. So we'll have a look at the list. There are 6 languages that follow those 2 rules. They are 1,500 to 2,000 years old. They have original literary tradition, which was not borrowed from another language. There are 6 of them. These are the 6 languages. There's Tamil, Sanskrit, Kannada, Telugu, Malayalam, and Odia. And this is why South Indians like myself are so proud, because 4 of those 6 languages, from the land, bro, they're from the land. So you can see that I've colored these guys out, and in fact, Orissa, where we speak Odia, is considered for us a North Indian language because this area, we call it the Deccan Plateau. It's a flat land with Western Ghats and Eastern Ghats. And Orissa does not have the same geography. So we usually exclude Orissa as a North Indian state. But it's intriguing that Orissa also has very curvy letters. Yeah, I didn't put the star because it's not South Indian. But Orissa is also really, really old. So there are 6 of these guys. And these dates is when they got this status, when they found all this literary work and gave this language that status. So Tamil has been there for a bit, and these other languages joined later on. So focusing just on the South Indian languages, it's a small piece of land. This much is a small piece of land, but there's so much of diversity that was celebrated over here. Before all the Arabic and European invasions came, this place is extremely fertile, and they have this pluralistic ideology. And this part is speculative because I'm not so sure about the philosophy, but at least I see the reflection of this pluralism between religion and language, where there's no one absolute way, one absolute script, the one right thing to do. No, almost everything is allowed. So you see, for 1,500 to 2,000 years, in this part of the country, we've had at least 4 scripts which have been surviving over this time. We saw that in the stone inscriptions as well. So these guys are old. I know a lot about Karnataka, so I'm going to zoom in a little more on Karnataka. I don't know as much about the other states, so we're going to be a little extrapolative about the other states. So in order to answer the question, how many scripts we have, we'll at least need to know how many languages we speak, right? So this was a part of a talk that I actually gave in Budapest the year before last. So if you were there, you can shout out the answer. How many languages do you think we speak in India? Closer, 800, yeah, something like that. We speak a bunch of languages. So back in, this can give you a little bit of a clue for how many writing systems in the modern day 10 rupee note. There are 8 of these back in 1917. This was a British note, in fact, during the British Raj. And they wrote the currency in English in the front and in these 8 scripts behind. And Tamil and Kannada are in there. So there's been this research paper, is it? But it's from the government. And then it became an act, the Official Languages Act. And this has been a controversial topic for a while because languages are a very touchy topic in India. And even today, there is this pressure of speaking North Indian language Hindi in South India, and a lot of activism in the south part of India where they will burn down these boards if you put that in Hindi, because it's not our language and we don't want to lose our language. So for this reason, the Constitution of India does not stipulate an official language, does not stipulate a national language, but we have English as the official language, which would be common between the states. And a lot of the central government policies happen in Hindi, and this is something that South India is still fighting for, but they don't yet have a resolution on this because our government is in North India, in the top north part of India, in Delhi. And we have a European kind of behavior where in France, you have the French government, and then there's also the European Union, which is now in Belgium. So there's these 2 levels of sovereignty where the European Union can decide certain things for France, but not everything, and the French government decides everything for France. And we have the same setup in India, where there's a central government in New Delhi, and there's a state government in each state. So for Karnataka, my state, it will be in Bangalore. And so you'll see that stuff like homosexuality is legal in one state and it's not in the other. Eating beef is legal in one state and not in the other. So there's this whole federal setup. And so we ask ourselves, do we really need Hindi to be imposed to the south part of India? South Indians will say no. I'm South Indian, I'll say no. But North Indians don't agree with that. So to enrich this new language Hindi, we think that this is an ancient one, but I was not surprised to learn that it's a new language because we started enriching this language from 22 other Indian languages. So there are at least 22 official Indian languages. So I'm changing that language count from 15 to 22. And these are South Indian ones. These are the classical ones over here. And to enrich Hindi, all of these other languages were chosen. So you'll see many of these nouns in Hindi is similar to Kannada. And me as a South Indian boy, I always thought Kannada medium is so yeah, financially poor compared to Bollywood and Hindi media, which is so much richer. And so the quality of movies and music in Hindi is way better than Kannada media. So I automatically just assumed that Kannada inherited it from Hindi, while in fact it's the other way around. Many of these words were picked from Kannada and Tamil and then used to enrich Hindi. And they've had this funding, and so the quality of their media is great, so that's awesome. I love Bollywood music, but it's important to remember that it in fact comes from South India, most of this. So I'm going to zoom in into Karnataka, and maybe by 11:45, I'll stop, so that is the end? Okay. Then I'll just have to, yeah, maybe in 10 minutes I'll stop. Then we can have a look at the QR code. So it's 6% of the landmass, it's tiny, and already in this place, if you look at how many languages are spoken, we have 150. And at least, this is a lot of languages. Like even I have not distinctly heard 150 languages over there, but if you look at the paperwork, it's there. So for me, I'm gonna go past the history stuff. Like you can see the palm leaf over here. These 4 languages I know really well from South India. So Kannada, I know, I speak this language fluently. In fact, I speak 2 dialects of this language too. Konkani, Tulu, and Kodava, I don't speak it at all. But if I heard it, I can distinguish between these languages because I have friends that come from this area. When we went to engineering school, I studied in Bangalore, which is around here. And that's like the capital city in Karnataka. So many people from different parts of Karnataka come there. And that's when I heard these languages, Konkani, Tulu, and Kodava. Konkani is spoken in the coastal part. So at least there are these 4 distinct languages. And so there's been this struggle of which should be Karnataka's language. This problem is really, it's a big one to solve. If you went to speak with the Konkani guys, they'd say, no, our language is great. We should just have Konkani instead of Kannada, and vice versa. But the state language for Karnataka is Kannada. So the reason I'm zooming in is to show you how much diversity there is. We saw 150, but there are at least these 4 distinct ones that are spoken to today's modern day. They have their scripts. I think Tulu, if I'm not wrong, does not have a script, and Konkani does. It uses the Devanagari script. So I want to show you guys something that is similar between Hindi and Kannada, and this really blew my mind when I first saw it. These are the letters in Hindi and Kannada, and you see that there's these lines and the curves from one and the other, and it says ka, kha, ga, ga, na. If you made the sound with me, notice that it starts from the back of your throat. So go ahead and say ka. It starts behind, right? Let's go to the second one. Cha. You use the flat of your tongue for this one. Let's do ta. Ta. You use the tip of your tongue for this one. Yeah. Ta. Sorry. Then say tha. And then say pa. So notice that when you started from ka, cha, ta, tha, pa, you did a journey from the back of your throat to the front of your throat. So it's neatly organized in this grid where it starts from the back and all the combinations for the back are written over here. So this letter is G, it says over here. So it also hits the back part. So there's K and G, which hits the back part. So there's K, K, G, G, N. This N is from the back of the throat as well, but we don't use it. We just organized it in case we want to use that sound, but we don't use this sound as much. This N we use the most, this one over here. So I thought this was cool, I just put it in there. So the same thing that I shared with you guys about Karnataka, it exists also for Tamil Nadu. And apart from the fact that we don't have the time, I also don't have the knowledge for how many languages there are in Tamil Nadu, and I've not done the research. But that's where all those 700, 800 languages come from, because each of these states have so many languages, and they've been having it for so many hundreds of years. But one thing that I thought was really cool that I'd like to share with you guys is in Tamil, when you want to say a vowel, you say uir, which sounds like soul. And when you want to say a consonant, you say may, which sounds like a body. So when you look at a word, the body is all the consonants. The syllables come from the consonants. And the direction the consonant will go to is dictated by their souls, a little bit like our human existence. So that's the philosophy behind it. And we use a lot of vowels in the South. And that also shows a difference between in North India, they have more consonants than spirits. It's not a criticism. It's just that their philosophy with their languages is different. And it's probably inspired by climate. So coming back to this question we had, we at least have 22 languages. So any guesses on the Slido? Can we see what's on the Slido? You can put it on screen. Oh, 15. Who's that guy? Clow. Who's Clow? You have an Indian note somewhere, don't you? No, who's Clow? Nobody? Okay, then we won't take the answer in that case. So there's at least 22 languages in, sorry, I didn't finish the story. So there was this survey that happened in 2010 to find out how many languages there are in India. There were about 2,000 language experts, and they made a list of demands for a language to qualify as a language and not be a dialect. And they generated a 35,000-page report, and it's available online for free. I did not have the energy to go through it, but the summary of this document is India has 780 distinct languages, and not dialects, languages. And the dialects is like roughly twice, around 1,400, 1,500 different dialects in India. And in order to make all of those sounds, we are forced to stick with, any final guesses? How many scripts? 10, 12, 20, 22? 8. Looks like no one's going to win today. How many? 8? No. 7, 48. So the gift is, I have a 10 rupee note that I'll give to you. And you'll win it if you guess how many languages are on it. 17? There are 15. And they are mentioned over here. One of these guys is in Urdu as well. But yeah, they're all mentioned over here. And these are the languages, the 15 languages on the 10 rupee note. That's been it for me. Thank you so much for listening. Do you have any questions or comments? What's the difference in the L sound of Tamil that's different in the other Dravidian languages? Oh, that's such a good question, man. So in Malayalam and Tamil, we have 3 or 4 Ls. I don't know the letters, so I can't confirm, but there are 3 or 4 Ls. In English, we even write ZH for a certain R sound, Valaparam, which we don't have up north. They just have 1 L. So what's the difference? Yeah, that's the difference. I hope that helps. In how many Indian languages are novels or books, excluding religious text, published? Is there a web novel presence for North Hindi language? Yeah, no, not really. Although I was educated in Kannada, there are Kannada newspapers as well, but I don't read it as fast as I do English, because a lot of my education, the engineering and business education, happened in English and then in French. So English and French, even on my card, is right up there. And my own mother tongue is down there because following the CEFR, because I can't read it, I can't put it up as native. So no, Indians don't consume their languages as much, sadly. Which language from the South family is the most widely used or considered a lingua franca in South India? We don't have that. We don't have that concept. Like already to force people from Karnataka to speak Kannada is a big deal. People don't like that. So yeah, if you went to Kodagu, which is a state in Karnataka, it's a district in Karnataka, there they speak Kodava. And if you spoke in Kannada to the local guys, they'd be like, what are you doing, bro? We don't do that here. Even English will be more acceptable than speaking a language that's not theirs. So no, we don't have a lingua franca situation. Yeah, English perhaps. Yeah, English would be many similar but different scripts surviving side by side without any of them taking over systems somewhat unusual. Is there an explanation for that? Yeah, this is the speculative philosophy side for me. It's that we celebrate diversity and pluralism. When you look at the deities in South India as well, in India, sorry, I keep saying South India. In India as well, we have so many deities, thousands and thousands of them. Even the same God has so many different avatars, and they're worshipped in different forms, different colors, different images. Shiva himself has like 4 or 5 different statues, and he doesn't always look the same. There's a dancing kind, they call him Tandav. There's so many different, for this reason, having this one singular point of view kind of thing is not the Indian approach. So I think that's probably where this diversity is inspired from. How many scripts, Indian scripts, do you speak yourself? So how many writing systems can I read? So I can read Urdu, Hindi, and Kannada. but I can also speak Tamil and Malayalam and Marathi. Marathi is the same as Hindi. But I can't read Tamil and Malayalam, unfortunately. I tried, but life got in the way. Que penses-tu de la célèbre conférence La faute de l'autographe sur TED? Ah oui, ça c'est génial ça. This thing is great. These two Brussels guys who are, this is amazing. They have a list of all those French letters that make the S sound, and they're like 12 different French letters that make the S sound phonetically. But this is amazing in Indian languages where the S sound, since it's organized in that grid we saw together, so depending on where it comes from in your mouth, there's one spot and that's it. There's no 2x from Brussels to make an S sound. All of those exceptions don't exist. So for this reason, I think Indian letters are so transparent. Once you learn how to read it, there are not many exceptions. Then there's, est-ce qu'une vision uniquement descriptive peut être comprise comme une rationalisation à... What does that even mean? Est-ce qu'une vision uniquement... I don't know. I don't know if it's necessarily the case. Again, I'm not a scholar. I studied engineering and business, so I'm not a linguist scholar, so I don't want to, cause a debate by taking a side on that. Is it possible to see Kannada and Telugu scripts in two variations of a common script rather than two distinct? Yeah, for sure. But having said that, when I watch Telugu movies and they don't put Kannada subtitles, like when they're introducing a character and they put just the name in Telugu, I can't read it. Yeah, there's similarities for sure, like we saw Lu and the A, but it's unintelligible, mutually speaking. So yeah, there's some inspiration, but it's not as transparent as French and English writing systems, for instance. Could a modern speaker of Kannada read ancient Kannada text and understand? No, not even close. I actually even have a slide for that. Not even close. I have there's this one guy called there's this one scholar called Basavanna from the 12th, 13th century back in India, from Karnataka. This guy was a king and a poet, and he wrote a lot of these Buddhist couplets calling people towards living a peaceful life. And his writings are in Kannada. I'm supposed to speak this language. I can read what he's saying, but I have no idea what it means. So I need a translator to tell me in modern day Kannada what that spans out to. So no, not at all. Do the Indian languages you speak differ a lot, or they're pretty similar? No, they're very different. In fact, my Malayalam is even more worse than my Tamil is, although there are similarities between these two languages. Yeah, Tamil, almost every movie and song I can follow. In Malayalam, I have to concentrate and ask for help. So no, they're very different. And those other three languages from Karnataka, I showed you guys, it's worse off than Telugu. Like, I have no idea what's happening. I can say which language it is, like when I hear Italian, for instance. But if you ask me to continue speaking in Italian now, the same thing with those other Kannada languages. So there's a lot of difference between these languages. Are there differences in the English spoken in different regions of India? That's a good question. Yeah, the pronunciation is very different. Very, very different. And in the south, we bobble our heads a lot like this when we say. And in the north, we do too, but not as much as in the south. But yeah, you'll see, for example, a Tamil guy, if he has to say that the earth is round, he'll pronounce all the vowels. Just like I was saying a short while ago, that we focus so much on the vowels down south and on the consonants up north. So he will say the earth is round, because when you write it, there's an E and an A. Why not pronounce it? That's the Tamil way of thinking. So he'd say the earth is round. So, and even at the end of the D, there's a little round. So yes, North Indians don't do that. So just from the accent, you can say what part of India they're coming from. Will immigration from other parts of the country threaten the standing of Kannada in Karnataka? Yeah, and I think for this reason, there are this activism in Karnataka now, where they want people to speak Kannada and not Hindi. We were a very tolerant state in the past, but now forcing people to speak more Kannada. Yeah, it's a shame that we don't speak our own language. I hope we do more of that. What are the biggest differences between Urdu and Hindi aside from the script? Oh, there's plenty. The reason I learned Urdu was because it sounds so romantic when it comes to poetry. The adjectives they use are of Persian origin, and they just fit in so well. However, the Hindi one, it has this German kind. I think the German language picked it from Sanskrit, if I'm not wrong. Please don't quote me on that. But you know this thing where you compound words and you put them together to make them a bigger word, that thing, whatever it's called in the linguistic world, like Krankenhaus, Krankenschwester, Krankenwagen, this thing, yeah, we have that in Hindi as well. So it's very descriptive. These adjectives are very descriptive in Hindi. But in my opinion, it's missing that the romance side, which Urdu's got, because it takes it from Persian. There's another word for it. There's 4 words for love. Hindi is just 1. So there's this whole wetness, I like to call it, this romance side in Urdu that Hindi doesn't have. So for this reason, many Bollywood songs also use the Urdu language and not Hindi. While they don't use a script, they'll use the words from Urdu and not from Hindi. I would imagine there would be local language literature classes in addition to English, right? Is there a common language taught in schools in each state? Yeah. We call it also the 3-language solution, which I don't like, and many South Indians don't like. So the first language is English, because internationally competitive. The second language would be the state language. So from Karnataka, it would be Kannada. And the third language is Hindi. So Karnataka accepted this 3-language system. And this is why I can read and write Hindi. But Tamil Nadu, for instance, they rejected it. So Tamilians don't speak Hindi. They can't read it. They're like very illiterate in Hindi. And rightfully so. It's not their language. So there has been this force of unifying the country with one language. But South India is going to be a difficult state to convince to use one language. Don't you think Hindi has to be purified? Has to be purified of English? Has to be purified of English? I don't know. I have an opinion. I don't think so. I have an opinion, but that's just my opinion. These are living organisms that we use. Like in French, when we started this IT revolution, they translated words into French. And at one point, they just gave up because it happens so fast in America. So they had a word for email, courriel, and now they just say email. They had a word for everything, like clavier. In India, a keyboard's a keyboard. Like if you're making a Hindi sentence and you wanted to say keyboard, that's not our stuff. It comes from America, and we just say keyboard, you know? My opinion is, it's not ours. Use their word. It's fine. You can use English words. It's okay. It's my opinion. How many languages do you speak, and how do you personally define being able to speak a language? For me, if you can express yourself in that language and you're trying to learn that language, so that's a very loose definition, a very forgiving one. For me, then you have some notions in that. For instance, there are a bunch of Indian languages that I have notions in. Telugu, for instance, I can understand bits of it, but I'm making zero effort to learn this language. So I wouldn't put that up on even on my A list, because I'm not trying to learn any Telugu. But I speak 9 languages. My Dutch is really terrible. I've spoken with some people from the Netherlands, and you realize that after 10 minutes, it's kind of getting to an end. So, but I'll still put that in there because I'd like to learn it one day. And same for Malayalam. It's my mom's mother tongue. I can understand Malayalam better than Dutch, but it's not very fluent. So 9 languages with that definition. Which ones of them are Indo-European? Do you understand some Lithuanian, because it's the closest European language? There are some similarities. I don't know much about Lithuanian per se, but there are some similarities. Even this Indo-European, I was very intrigued. Why Indo? And I looked it up, and it comes from the land, bro. No, I'm sorry, I don't know anything about this, but I'd love to look it up. Were South Indian languages there before the arrival of the Hindu Europe? What are Hindu Europeans? But even though I don't know what's a Hindu European, I'm going to say yes. We were always there. Do you think Indians mix too much English into their native language while speaking? Yeah, we do. We use a lot of English for sure. Yeah, and we have some friends, some of my friends who are so purist in their language, they will try to not use any English word. And to many Indians, this can also sound strange because nobody, for example, I was this friend of mine from France who was learning Hindi. She said, she made a sentence in Hindi, and I understand what she's saying, but it sounds weird because we wouldn't say it. She says, kafi, so this coffee in Hindi, we would say kafi, I just say coffee, but anyway, kafi, she said, mez par hai. And mez is the word for desk. I know what she's saying, but nobody says that in India. So it's like, yeah, we just say table par hai, you know? Yeah, and we use a lot of English words in our languages, for sure. You mentioned that people bobble their heads more in South. Are there dialectical differences in the bobble? Yeah, I don't. Maybe. No, I haven't thought of that or looked into that. But in the South, we do bobble our heads a lot. Like, I don't know. It may be so. Do the majority of middle age and old people speak English in India? My parents speak English. My grandparents also spoke English before they passed away. Majority, I don't know. We are 1.5 billion, man. I don't know. we overtook China, by the way, 2023. Percent. I think that's it. Thank you so much, guys. Have a nice afternoon.